No, really, just masterful art. Is masterful too strong of a word? Good art. It's good art.
It's a
Uh,
very simplistic style that lends itself to the story excellently.
see, Dan, that's why you're here, man. Because you were like a wordsmith. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful.
Comic Indie Podcast. Comic Indie Podcast. Comic Indie Podcast. Comic Indie Podcast.
Welcome to Comic Kitty Podcast. My name is Ken Javier.
I'm Alex A.
And again, I am Dan.
And today we have a very special episode today as we are joined by Corey of NERDANATIX. Corey, welcome.
How you guys doing?
Good. See, I think we were all waiting to see who would say good first, but we're all good. So that's how it works. Oh, well, Corey, thank you for joining us. So, Corey, obviously, we're all here for the love of comics and the love of the comic game. Tell us a little bit about you, sir, and what brings you to our neck of the woods.
Let's see. I'm an avid comic book fan. Love all aspects of comics, film, animation, written. Read them online, physical, comic book conventions. I just love them, man. Anytime I can get a chance to read something good, I become an avid fan of anything, really, any genre.
Okay, well, cool. So just kind of as a story, and I'm sure, the people of the world want to know, you ran into our group or we ran into your group via social medias, and I guess you met Alex?
Yeah, it was actually very funny how I actually met Alex. I was scrolling down my Facebook page and I saw an ad or a link to Comic Indie Con, and I said, well, I didn't know that this was a Houston convention. Then I actually ended up messaging the Facebook page and met Alex, I think, a few days later. Right, Alex?
Yeah, it was probably the same day, or if not, the very next day. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where, yeah, I knew who Corey was already off the bat.
Hey, Corey, what is NERDANATIX?
NERDANATIX is basically a publisher that supplies fans with comic books and anime of different genres. We provide free books where you can come in online or grab your phone, stop and sit and grab a quick read of a comic book from creators from different aspects of the world with different writing styles. We have something for everyone, and if we don't, give us some time and we'll get something for you.
And
Okay.
just for our listening audience, can you tell us quickly, please, because we know you, how are you related to NERDANATIX?
I am the owner and founder of NERDANATIX. I'm also one of the writers on a couple of our stories.
Which is the one that you're working on right now?
The Dawn is my story, and then I'll have about two more that'll be added, hopefully within the next couple of months.
So, as an indie creator or an artist or somebody who's put out their books, why go to NERDANATIX, or how do they find you, or what exactly could you offer the artist or creator out there?
I think one of the biggest issues being indie is that there's so many of us, and the market is so vast with mostly Marvel, DC. You have your IDW, you have your Image, stuff like that. That indies reluctantly try to join forces together because everyone wants to make it either solo or try to make it with one of the big guys. That we're a small publisher, we tend to put our creators first. So we handle their distribution, we handle their marketing, pretty much everything except for the production. That's still on the producer, the creator, excuse me. But at the same time, what that does is it limits you in the financial responsibilities that someone will have to worry about. So say if you're not good at marketing, we have a whole team of creators, a whole team of people who will help us in terms of the marketing to help get your books out there. Just people you can talk to if you have issues, have writer's block, anything like that. It's just a good network of people that we work with to help creators get their stories out.
Okay, well, cool. So, Corey, what would you say has been just your most enjoyable part of this whole experience? Because you've only been doing this for how many years now?
I've been doing comic books for about 4 or 5 years.
Okay, and 4 or 5 years in NERDANATIX, what keeps you, in the game, or what's your motivation?
It's just every time, every day is a different day. And when you see people going to your website, leaving you comments, leaving you reviews without necessarily you, even putting in, marketing for that day, even preparing to prep for that day, you have someone who's already shown you interest without you having to do anything. It's kind of like motivation. It gets you pumped up that you want to see more of that each and every day. You want it to grow to a vaster number. From 1 to 10 to 100 to 1,000. That pumps me up as not only a creator, as the leader and the founder of the company, especially when you can see someone who is giving a compliment to another guy or girl who they probably would have never known of. Because then, like I said, our community is so small. With myself, I can probably name 100 creators that another person has never heard of, and vice versa.
So as a quick question in that regard, because you're working with a lot of creators and you're trying to get people involved in basically almost like a co-op, spreading each other's values and helps to try to support the next person. How does somebody get involved with something like NERDANATIX?
We have what I call an open policy, where we accept all forms of artwork. We accept obviously something that doesn't promote, hatred or violence or anything like that, racism. But we have an open policy in terms of what we accept. We have a motto that there's something for everyone. While someone might not enjoy your book, another person might enjoy it. And we don't want to limit ourselves to what we can offer. And we don't want to limit what the audience may like and may not like. We just want to provide as much as we can for people who want to come to the website and see and read and enjoy reading comics and manga.
Well, I was curious about that because you said that you were trying to keep yourself more socially conscious, more, make sure that you're like doing the right thing. And I was reading a number of your books, and they are staggeringly dark.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite genres. One of my favorite genres tends to be that dark story, brutal, things like that. That tends to have been one of my all-time favorite genres. Growing up, I'm watching Batman. Batman, even on television, was this brutal, kind of superhero. And then when I actually got into reading comics, I learned that television Batman was 10 times softer than comic book Batman. So that's definitely been a genre that I've just thoroughly enjoyed over the years.
And even then with Batman, I mean, there's only so much that the mainstream is going to be able to push the limits on. Mm-hmm. They're going to have their restrictions. If it wasn't through the Comic Code Authority, then it's going to definitely be through corporate policy. And this is something that we've explored as being a huge advantage with indie comics. You can push that envelope as far as you want. But I guess there's still certain lines that certain people still want to guide themselves by, because I mean there's just certain subjects you still don't want to touch. And just reading through some of your comics, like Butch the Butcher, I've got to say that this is probably one of the most violent ones I've read in a while, and I thought I read violent, but it's pretty interesting how each of these comics are so vastly different.
I tend to agree. Like I said, actually, Corey, I've checked out a lot of your manga too. Kind of growing up, I was a huge fan. And I swear, man, if this website was out, maybe, I'm not going to date myself, but, early 90s or so, I would have probably lost my mind. So, definitely love the vision, and I really respect the ability to kind of not, have your walls so high up there. Like I said, I think, it's a cup of tea for everybody. Just, this one tea might have a little bit more blood than the other tea, but it's still good. It's still good to somebody. So kind of talking about some books, you brought some books here with you today, or I guess not physically brought, but you've digitally brought some books. So let's talk about a little bit about your formatting on your website. So how can your readers get books, or is it all digital? Is it all print?
No. So how the site works, there's two ways to go about it. There's the free membership, and then there's the subscribers membership. The subscribers membership is a $199 subscription. Basically, how it works is the first issue of every book, every series is automatically free to read, just so you can kind of engage and learn about the story. You get to read the synopsis before you even, click onto a book to see if you like it or if it's something you want to invest your time in. Afterwards, the second issues and so forth. Basically, how those work is for the free subscription, every week we upload up to 8 pages of that story. And if you want to purchase the continued story, you can do so either digitally or physically. And for the paid subscribers, the books are automatically uploaded in for digital reading. You can also purchase the prints of pretty much any books that are available outside of the coming soon. But new releases, our NERDANATIX exclusives, the first free issues, everything, all of those you can purchase the physical once it's available on that site.
So if I hear you correctly, Corey, you're giving away free comic books. Is that right?
It's free comic books, yes, sir. Free digitally.
No, definitely a very, very cool site. Very, very cool. Like I said, we were able to check it out. It kind of brings me back in the day, and again, not dating myself because I'm not this old like comic book fart nerd or whatever. But y'all remember like when you had that comic book? Yeah. And then like you could actually like tear off a piece of the paper or from the book, and you can check which books you wanted, and you mail it in, and they mail it back to you. Anybody do that? No.
I don't know. That just sounds like a Netflix kind of deal.
No. Back in the day, Dan, you got to back me up on this.
I did it actually in the day. Believe it or not, I actually did it. I actually made a subscription to a particular Marvel comic that I received in the mail every month, and it came to me to make sure that I could get it because it was a comic that I couldn't always get at my normal comic book shop. But yeah, we used to have, you can go into any comic from, I'd like to say, I think they stopped somewhere around the mid 80s, but they probably kept around to like the 90s and then just kind of like, never mind. But yeah, you could actually send them a check up boxes of which comics you wanted, make sure the check amount and the dollar amount of the subscriptions were the same, and they would just send you comics every week. So in this way, it's kind of a digital format. What you're doing with NERDANATIX, it's kind of good. It's kind of a good version of this for digital.
NERDANATIX embracing technology. I like it. See, we don't have to cut you a paper check or ask our mom or dad to please, write us a $5 check so Stan Lee can send me a comic book. Love it, man. All right, that's good.
What sort of bargain or incentive are you giving someone, like say a newcomer? Say if I wanted to be a comic publisher through NERDANATIX, what kind of deal would you give me?
Okay. So basically, like I said, our whole goal and aspect was to build a place where fans can go and read comic books in one place, kind of like Comixology. So you have all these fans of different creators going to one site to see that person's book. And while they're there, although they may be there to see that person's book, there may be another book that kind of catches their attention and they invest in that book. So it's kind of just sharing our fan base and collectively bringing them to one place to where they can read comic books. For someone coming on new, it'll be the same aspect as what we do. We have a collection of fans that are already with the creators there who are now capable of seeing your book and potentially building on your fan base, and you vice versa helping build their fan base.
So basically what you're saying is that as a publishing house, you don't turn anybody away, which is great. But when it comes to why you're here, it's a way of collectively working in that incentive of making sure everybody knows each other's books and works together to basically enlighten each other collectively in the same way, like you said, like Comixology or any sort of subscription service. I mean, again, you want to talk dating. This is brought is sometimes seen in the negative, but it's a positive. But the old Columbia Record Club, where you get so much records for so much money
for a penny, Dan. For a
penny. Absolutely true. But you'd be able to choose from what you get exposed to all the new artists out there by looking at what else was on this list. So in the same way with NERDANATIX, you get this. But let's say I was a creator of a comic and I said, hey, I want to be a part of this. How does one be a part of this, and what can be expected both from the creator and from the publisher?
So basically what we do is, we go into the terms of our agreement, talking with them and seeing if that's something that they want to do, if they agree with everything. Then the next thing would be setting them up on the website. We send out promotion via social medias, email blasts to all of our subscribers about any new releases that we have. So the moment a new creator gets signed on, they instantly get spotted right under our new release, so people can see we got something new. They'll get a promotional tag on our Facebook page to all our Facebook fans, and it's just promoting, getting them in the same lines of promotion that everyone else was set up in. And then from our aspect, basically what we do, trying to get them into stores. We send out catalogs to stores for all of our books, and owners or managers of that comic book store are able to, pick and choose, or if they want to just give us an all full run, we send out small quantities of pretty much the most books that we can. And then we also provide creators with books for conventions. We kind of make sure that our creators are not spending as much money. We want to try to limit. That's really one of our main goals as well, to limit the amount of money that creators have to spend going through other sites to produce books that may have cost them this amount of money. So now they have to charge this amount of money at conventions to kind of make even. We want to bring those costs down so you can kind of make your books more affordable when going to conventions, or more affordable when putting them in stores, just to kind of compete a little bit more with the mainstream.
Oh yeah, because making physical copies of books in this day and age can be nightmarish.
Yes. Yeah. See, NERDANATIX passing the savings on to you, comic creators. Go like them on Facebook today. So, speaking of creators, how many creators or how many titles are y'all up to at this point? Because I'm looking at the website right now, and it's pretty deep, Corey.
Right now we have just over 40 books. We still have some few books that we haven't added yet. So probably by the end of this week, we'll have close to 50 books that'll be available on the site. So if you guys take a look, please expect a lot of new releases to be under the new release section of the comic book section.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about some books. I know we have Gray Coyote on deck. Corey, tell us about that.
Gray Coyote follows a young Native American woman who is kind of this hero in a way in the Old West. She is trying to protect this town who's been invaded by a couple of rough gangs. And she's just, it's not your typical cowboy story where you have, gunslinging out in the West. She's out there fighting with bows and arrows, some incredible martial arts. And she's really just, it's great to see this type of comic book because you don't have a lot of comic books that focus on the Wild West that are, talked about a lot. And this one is a really good read. And if you sit down and invest a couple minutes into it, I'm guaranteed that you'll like the story of it.
Yeah, just kind of looking through the art, I really enjoyed it. I like this Asian man with the undercut hipster haircut. Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. No, the art is really really good. It's in black and white. Tell us about the author and the artist.
So the author is Travis Alexander. He's a great guy. He has a YouTube channel where he talks a lot about himself, his books, comic books in general. The artist, I have yet to meet the artist, but as you can see, his artwork is incredible. They both ran a successful Kickstarter with Gray Coyote. They're launching Gray Coyote #2 in a couple of weeks. So look forward to supporting that if you guys are interested in seeing the second issue, and it'll be on the website soon.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. I really enjoy the art, but what I liked most about it was the visual style of storytelling that he used. I mean, you can see some of those action sequences, like where she's fighting one of the cowboys. She blocks one of his arms, and she comes down with a double hit. So I know there was some thought process put into that because the sequence of events all make logical sense.
Yeah, it's really realistic in terms of the fighting scenes. That's one of the things that I like about it.
Definitely.
But yeah, we definitely don't want to spoil the book. But for those of y'all who are out there, go to NERDANATIX.com. Check it out. Gray Coyote. No, really just masterful art. Is masterful too strong of a word? Good art. Good art.
It's a very simplistic style that lends itself to the story excellently.
There, see, Dan, that's why you're here, man. 'Cause you were like a wordsmith Oh my goodness, that's beautiful.
We're
All
the
right.
second
Well,
person today to use that phrase.
oh, really? Okay. Okay. But no, like I said, I think that the paneling is done excellently. It's almost as if I'm, watching the storyboard of a movie. And but yeah, really, really, really cool. Okay, Corey. So you brought us some more books, and we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. Tell us about The Butcher and what's going on with that.
Oh, the butcher. Oh, yeah.
Here it comes.
When the publisher has to take that pause and say, yeah, about that.
So The Butcher is actually one of my favorite books that we have. It's written by Michael Mitland, and the co-writer is Corey Hepler. Great name for this guy. Butch the Butcher follows a butcher who he and his wife, they want to start this deli. They take out a loan from the mob, and when you can't pay the mob, some bad things happen. And once those bad things happen, you kind of mentally see the breakdown of Butch, to where he loses himself completely and becomes what he is, a butcher, and takes out the mob in return for doing so. But it's a great story, very dark. Michael is both the writer, one of the writers, and he's also the artist for the story. He created the story. And then Corey Hepler is the co-writer. Those two got together and just made a great story. And this is going to be a 4-series issue. If you've seen the title of the cover, this is just part 1 of the 4-part story. The second issue is, again, going to be coming out soon. So if you've invested time in the first issue, you definitely want to invest time in the second one.
You know what, Corey? What I learned about The Butcher is you shouldn't take too many Lexapros and drink a beer, because then you might end up taking out the mob.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good thing to do.
No, you know what? I actually, it is a very visceral, a very, very intense book. But
we know who the writer, we know who the artist is. Who provide the anatomy texts?
That it would definitely be between Michael and Corey. Who I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how they came up with everything, but they definitely make the perfect horror team.
Oh, very much horror team. It definitely, it gets a visceral gut reaction. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's something for everybody. Definitely, I think it's kind of caught my eye. If the police are listening to this, I didn't do it, so it's something you got to see and kind of just really got to check out. It's not something just so out of left field or anything, or I don't think it's just shock value for shock value. I mean, you could see some of the same things on the Saw movie or what have you, but at the base of it, it's just a man who wants to protect his family after they shot up his pregnant wife with Tommy guns, right? Wouldn't you do the same thing?
Well, I don't know about protection. It's more like revenge.
Revenge.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, he wants to protect their dignity and souls.
Maybe their memories. I don't know.
Memory.
But yeah, I mean, if there wasn't enough blood, I think some of the artists put blood as paneling, border paneling for some of those shots too.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, when you deal with these things like your books, like Butch the Butcher, or what was the not Desolation City? It was called
Debauchery City.
Debauchery City. How do you deal with some of the criticisms that come up for books like that? I know they are listed as TVMA or not for kids, but how do you deal with people who are coming for like the manga and they see this other stuff? How do you deal with the people who see the breadth of what's available in that regard?
Well, it's kind of just an understanding that once people go to your site that there's going to be some things that they like and some things that they don't like, and you have to take the good with the bad, because like I said, there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
So when those people come in and they kind of don't feel as if they like this book or like that book, I kind of personally want to get involved and ask them, well, what was it that you didn't like about this book? Or what was it that you didn't like about that book? And they give me their feedback and their details, and I kind of tell them more about the creator. How the creator envisioned, who the creator is, so they can kind of get a little bit more understanding of who the creator is, the story. For Debauchery City, Anthony Cooper, who is the writer of that, he is a huge, and I don't know how in depth I have to get with the word huge. huge fan of what is it, Sin City? Yeah, he's a huge fan of Sin City. I was about to say.
Oh, what is that? Frank Miller, right?
Yeah, he's a huge fan of Sin City. So for me, when I look at it, I can kind of see that, Frank Miller was a big source of his writing style. That was someone who he enjoyed reading. So I can understand that, because everyone, some writers, they have a writer who they've grown up reading. They absolutely enjoy reading. They have some TV shows that they absolutely love, and they try to invoke those same creative styles into their writing.
But yeah, so I think that's really interesting vision you have. And yeah, everybody does have their perspective and how they all come from a particular area and how that story is being built. So I find that interesting. By the other token, because you're dealing with independent writers and you actually are the main publisher, do you ever worry about accidental or intentional copyright infringement? Not necessarily somebody copying you, but because you're coming with a lot of stories that come from people who are drawing from that inspirational source, which can bleed through. Are you ever worried about somebody going, "That's too much like us"?
Well, the thing about comic books, I've said this a couple of times over the last couple of years. When you compare comics to manga, the market is so compressed that it pretty much it's rare. It's very rare for books to not be reverted towards something. Everyone can read something and say, well, this reminds me of that. This reminds me of that. This reminds me of that. Instead of actually taking in what the book is about and getting into the story. Something can remind you of something, but it's not exactly 100% that same story. There could be something or someone in the story that you missed out because you kind of look at it as, oh, I've already seen this already before in the story that I've read here and there. But it's very rare to find someone who will not say something like that with comics, because there's so many great comics out there, and like I said, so many great writers that growing up you see these writers and you want to mimic or kind of include their style because you've been a fan of them for so many years. And you have to remember, all of us are fans of the Frank Millers, all these guys who've created all these books, and all of us kind of incorporate their styles into what we do. So there are certain similarities here and there that you can, okay, this is a suspenseful moment, I predicted that. This is a heartfelt moment, I kind of predicted that. But the story itself, that's where it differentiates. The similarity in terms of the style, maybe something you're familiar with, where like you can predict something, but it's the story itself that you want to really invest in, because that's going to be the huge difference breaker.
Corey, you also brought us another book here, and I want to call it Witch Hunter, but it's not, because it's called The Midnight Witch. What is Midnight Witch, and what is she up to at midnight?
The Midnight Witch is a story by Carol Peace. Her name is Madaka Leona, and I hope that I'm pronouncing the first part of her name correctly. She's a very powerful witch who keeps on her a time clock, and that time clock kind of ensures her power in terms of the name you see, Midnight Witch. Where she is a capable fighter in terms of magic. It's not your typical magical story that a lot of people have read, where they're back and forth with spells here and there, spells and spells. This is raw, pure magic at its finest. Even the cover, was one of the first things that I enjoy about the overall story. You see the cover and you see her hands, you see her eliminating kind of like this purple type of fire with all these clocks surrounding her, and then it kind of engages you into the story to where the clocks draw in the attention of, okay, the Midnight Witch. What is this story really going to be about?
I noticed she was wearing a bunch of clocks, and again, not to be disrespectful or anything. I think she has a very nice shape. She's a very voluptuous witch, and but I'm a little concerned she might be a little bit of a clock tease.
Okay, that's going on the edit reel.
All right, look, I'm trying. All right. I promise you.
1039 to hell, now boarding. 1039 to hell, now boarding.
People, I promise you.
Whew.
All right, okay, let's try that again.
I do say I do like the Midnight Witch when it comes to the style, because the sort of pseudo steampunk aspects of the art and the a lot of the intricacies very well done, and I gotta say it's kind of interesting. I'm curious to see where that goes.
Yeah, like I said, it was one of the books where the creator is from overseas. They actually don't live here in the United States; they're overseas.
Are you allowed to say where? Just generally, I'm not just asking for an address.
I believe. Let me make sure, but I believe they're somewhere in the European area.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, don't know the exact whereabouts, but they're in the European area.
Cool.
But yeah,
It does kind of have a Harry Potter feel, kind of British kind of feel to it.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I liked about it. Because I said I'm a huge, speaking of Harry Potter, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. So stories about magic, they almost immediately get my attention, invest me into it, just like dark stories do. And then when you open the book, you're immediately overwhelmed with what's going on. It's not just starting off with the typical explanation of this is magic, this is what we do. It's you see the actual aftermath of magic and what it can do, and you see her just doing what she can. It shows you the power that she's capable of doing with her magic and how powerful she is.
Yeah, definitely. When I was reading through it, I saw that she was looking through an image, or she was talking to somebody, and it was she saw I guess various iterations of who she was in the past, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So she's probably lived a very long life, and she's learned a lot of mistakes along the way. It seems like it even has a really good storyline too. On top of the great art that comes with it. I can't wait for issue 2 on that one.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the great things about your site, NERDANATIX, is because you got a lot of polished works that are out here, and I mean, where else would you be able to find this European artist, in the great state of Texas, and you will through your site. So I mean, definitely, hats off to you, sir, for the resource and just the product that you provide to the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the good things about NERDANATIX here is it has some take that's similar to Image, where if you're an independent writer or artist, you want to submit, it's all for the indie creator. But the additional resource that you get with NERDANATIX is you have all this help. You have a team of writers, a team of artists, and it seems like they all can collaborate if need be.
And that's exactly what it is, Alex. I said when I first wanted to do this, I wanted to kind of follow Image's footsteps. And then it created, like you said, kind of like a network of creators who were capable of talking with each other, messaging them when they saw something like, oh, hey, man, I loved how you did, this part and this part and this part, and then people can even go in and, team up. Really, I shouldn't be saying this, but, because...
Say it, Corey.
Go for it.
I'll say it. One of the things that we intended on doing, and it's happening. It's happening now. Is for stories of similarities, to be able to create joint kind of universes. So you have Gray Coyote, and you have Shadow of the West, another story that is in that Western time. Those two stories, are capable of becoming, doing like a little crossover story.
Oh, he said the word.
I was waiting for it.
So the NERDANATIX is a universe.
That's one of our hidden goals.
Okay.
Is to establish a joint universe to where you can have creators from one story featured in another story, and so forth, and have joint stories. That's one of our hidden agendas, to create a massive universe.
That's really cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
See, we all said it was cool, so you've just won the 3 Cool Award, Corey. Welcome.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Oh, not really, but okay. I think it's just so fascinating, and it's really kind of just driving this conversation in itself. So, as a creator, how easy or what's the process? Is it just an email to you? Is it a phone call or Facebook message to you, or from contact to, or you just first contact to up on the website? What's the timeline look like for creators out there?
The timeline is pretty quick, really. Either way you go, if you contact me through the site, you contact me on Facebook. I'm kind of one of those people where technology controls my life, and I have my phone on me at all times, and it's sent to my phone instantly, so I can easily respond. Introduce myself. The creator introduces themselves. Then they kind of tell me a little bit about their story. They'll send me the PDF. I'll get to read it. And after I've calmed myself down and can talk back again, we kind of go into details about how things work with being with NERDANATIX. And then the next process goes to getting them on the site and then getting viewership for their comic book. See, like today's one of the days, Mondays, every Tuesday we do our top 10 comic books, where the top 10 comics that have been viewed the most, liked the most, we kind of give those comics the top 10 spotlight, so people know when you come onto the site, we do have recommendations as well, that those top 10 comic books are some of the recommendations that we would recommend you reading if you only have a short amount of time, or if you've come here for a friend, you're supporting a friend, but you're a real avid comic book fan and you want to get a read in, those top 10 are, one of the ones that we would recommend if you have a favorite genre.
So what are some I understand you're going to some conventions, or what are some upcoming things for you, or where can people find you out in the community?
Yes, we'll be going to Anime Matsuri April 1st. That Sunday we'll be there. We'll be in the Hugh Pop section. So if anyone is going to be there, please stop by. We'll be giving away quite a few gifts to some fans. We'll be showcasing some comic books. We'll have a lot of stuff for people to be able to read, get invested into, and then kind of tell a little bit more about the site and the company as a whole for any creators who might be there and are looking for a future home.
Okay, awesome.
Well, best lucks and everything else like that to that, because I'd love to see more indie people around some of the more hardcore mainstream people, because that's really what we need.
Appreciate that.
So Corey, tell us how we can find you on line or social media.
So you can go to www.facebook.com/NERDANATIX. That will get you to our Facebook page. Same thing applies for Twitter /Twitter /NERDANATIX for our Twitter page. And then for our actual website, it's www.nerdanatix.com. That's NERDANATIX.com.
Thank you for coming, and thanks for being part of Comic Indie, and thanks for showcasing all the great work you have at your site. And definitely, we hope to hear more great things from you guys.
Man, I appreciate you guys for giving me the time and asking me to be a part of this.
Absolutely,
no worries.
Definitely, yeah. Good to have you, man.
All right, well, thanks again, Corey, and for Comic Indie, this is Ken Javier.
I'm Alex A.
And again, I'm Dan.
And you've been listening to Comic Indie Podcast.
Indie podcast.